and roll rabbi has entered the studio.
Well, I have to tell you, I am not soft-spoken. Sorry. Some want a second reformation. I say that we have reformed too much. That is why no one agrees. We Jews, however, are different. My foot is on the neck of the new interpretations found in the Hebrew Roots movement, and I am putting pressure on it. I've been on the air 17 years, and I'm not going anywhere.
The Ani Judaism radio broadcast brought to you by your local radio affiliate as well as Apple Podcasts.
All right, good Shabbos to everybody. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ani Jewish podcast. Yes, we haven't done a show in a while. I understand that. We have not gotten out of our contract yet with the other radio affiliates, but they have stopped airing the program. Let me give you a little bit of an update on that. Okay. In terms of the update, they, and this will be playing into what we're talking about here today, by the way, just so you know. I have been doing as I said I would, going and sending them just the worst audio that I could put together. Not using this, using the audio from my laptop, and I've been pushing my laptop to the end of the desk just so that it's extra horrible. And they said, well, we're just going to go into your archives and go and grab an older episode. And I said, you can't do that because of the fact that I own the rights to my program. That's one of the things that's in my contract. That's why it is that you guys have been able to get these podcasts of the radio program absolutely free, but I haven't been podcasting those episodes. Because for those of you who didn't know my plan, you could go and listen back to the previous episode and be able to hear about that. So they have taken me off the schedule, and we are just exclusively a podcast now, which, I don't get my $20 a week, but, at the same time, we don't have them going and cutting out certain parts of the radio program and making me say the exact opposite of what I said on the program. And, there will be some action taken about that. Absolutely. Unless it is that we end up getting an apology from them, the names of these affiliates will be given at the end of the next episode. I told them that they have until September the 1st to decide if they are going to apologize and to go and correct those issues. So they have until September 1st. There will be more podcasts until then. There will be some more exclusive to you guys. Make sure to go and subscribe on your podcast application on your cell phone and all that good stuff. Whether it is that you use Apple Podcasts, which is what I use, or whether it is that you use some of the others, whatever it is that you use. You will be able to continue to be able to get this, as well as our various Roku channels, which are absolutely free, by the way. You can get the video over there. You can also go and subscribe to us on Vimeo, which has a lot more archives than YouTube. You can also go and subscribe on YouTube for as long as it is that YouTube decides to keep us up this time. Every so often, they like to take us off of YouTube, and it's been an ongoing battle. It's been an ongoing battle, and lots of stuff. But let's go ahead and start out as we are getting ready. We are in Erev Shabbos right now, so I want to wish all of you good Shabbos. We are entering into Shabbos. I got stuff underneath my hat here. So much, everything goes and attaches itself to this thing. It's crazy. I need to get myself a brand new lint roller. Okay, so we're going to be going to the book of Yeshayahu, the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20. And reading there from the Masoretic text, it says, Hoi ha-omrim lara tov ve'latov rashamim koshech leor ve'or le koshech samim mar le matok o matok le mar. Okay. For those of you who don't have your translation out right over there, we could say that it says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I want you to look at the world that we're living in right now. We have congregations, both Jewish and Christian as well. Okay. We have the Reformed Jews, and we also have sects of Christianity as well, such as the Methodists. And I've talked about this before, who are pushing this LGBTQ LMNOP agenda. I've done a whole episode on this recently, so there's no reason to rehash all of that. But we're seeing a lot of exposure happening right now. Hillsong. As a matter of fact, now being a person who plays music, I've criticized Hillsong from the musical aspect, okay? For those who just want a quick rundown of that, how is it that I criticize Hillsong? My issue is with modern worship music that we end up getting from like Elevation, Hillsong, all of those places and all that stuff. Everything is, stacked delay and stacked reverb and all that stuff. There is no creativity involved at all whatsoever. It is a way of doing music to where it is that a false emotion is given for a short period of time. I got to give a hat tip to some of my friends actually who do worship music, and they do things a lot differently. They write their own stuff, and they, don't try and copy other people, and they, do some amazing stuff, and as a guy that plays the guitar, it's one of those things that I look at, so I've criticized them in the past about that, but also there's something else as well that has recently come to light. The person who is the head over everything in Hillsong has decided to cover up the fact that other individuals within Hillsong have been engaging within pedophilia. Decided to cover that up. Now, it's interesting. The media doesn't take much of an issue with that. The issue that the media takes with Hillsong is that they stand for traditional marriage, that they stand against the LGBTQ LMNOP garbage and all that stuff, and they find that to be outdated. They find that to be, just out there. And it reminds me of an episode of 2020 that I saw. And Elizabeth Vargas was covering this Hebrew roots cult that is really big over in Tennessee. And the thing is that this is a cult that would go and have, people in their 40s and 50s going to marry children, they're like 12 and 13 years old, and also allow them to have multiple child wives. And they would go and take the children at the ages of 4 and 5 and all that stuff, have them go and work out in the fields and all this stuff instead of going to school and all these things. I mean, just horrible things. But Elizabeth Vargas says, yeah, they go and they do all that. But I think the thing that is the most concerning is the fact that they are against LGBTQ, LMNOP, and all that garbage. And I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute here, child wives? That's not concerning to you? That's not the most concerning thing? Having children at the ages of 4 and 5, 6 years old, doing hard physical labor as opposed to going to school, that doesn't concern you at all? The fact that these children are malnourished doesn't concern you? The thing that concerns you is their position on LGBTQ, LMNOP, how it is that they perceive those things. Those are the things that you have issue with. And I'm saying to myself, you go and you turn on the news, you go and you watch and I'm using quotation marks for those listening to the audio, the things that our president is saying on TV in relation to this vaccine, in relation to what is going on in Afghanistan right now. And, it's very interesting because, we've seen the video of tons of Christian and Jewish individuals within Afghanistan being slaughtered by the Taliban in the last couple of weeks. But that's not a point of concern. He says that there have been 0 fatalities in Afghanistan. And then today he goes out there and says that that within Afghanistan, nobody has had any sort of issue with going and getting to the airports. No Americans have had any sort of issues with getting to the airports and all this stuff. And I'm sitting over there going, that's not what we have seen in terms of, and plus the on the ground reporting over there, that's not what it is that we've seen. And there are actually people sitting over there clapping for this guy, praising this guy, all of this stuff. And it's like the entire world has been dropped on its head. Now, in my local community over here, we have the College Street Recreation Center, which is about a block away. And they are having, now, see if this makes sense to anybody. See if this makes sense to any of you listening. Okay? Over there, they are trying to push the COVID vaccine. And they're having a thing this Saturday. On the 21st, they're having a thing at the College Street Recreation Center between 1 and 3 and they're going to allow maximum capacity of 200 people into the gymnasium over there. Okay. And they're going to be offering food. They're going to be giving drinks and all this stuff. And they're going to be having health professionals go and talk about the hesitancy that people have over the COVID vaccine. Now, it's interesting that these are the very same people who say, first of all, don't gather in large groups. Don't go to concerts. Don't go to the movies. Don't go to restaurants or bars. Don't go, to any sort of gathering. But if we're speaking, however, and we got something to tell you, you better come to that. I'm sitting there saying to myself, how dumb do these people, first of all, think we are? And how dumb is it? Are they to say, oh, these people say, well, it's okay to go and do this, for this whole thing, but not for anything else. I mean, any person that would end up showing up to that thing to listen to what it is that these people have to say, obviously don't have a brain in their head. That's obvious. And then we look at, many of the other things that are happening around the world right now. All these things have you seen what is going on in Australia? Have you seen the things that are going on over there? People are being arrested for taking one step outside of their home. They're being arrested for that. They got forced vaccinations over there. People being arrested to be able to, just take a step outside of their home. And the thing is that the upper echelons over there within the government of Australia think this is perfectly kosher. This is perfectly fine. This is not tyrannical in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just in total and complete awe over this. Then we go and we shift over here to the United States. Look at many of the things that are happening over here. We have the forensic audit that's being done over in Maricopa County. I know the media is not going and covering that, but their findings are coming out in the next couple of days. Now, there was a gentleman that was involved with that audit, that is still involved in that audit, and he said the votes have gone tens and thousands in the other direction. Tens of thousands in another direction. A place where it is that President Trump only ended up losing by 10,000 votes. But he said tens of thousands and more are going in the complete different direction than what was certified. And the thing is, the media is saying, don't listen to these people. They're crazies. They're crackpots, for going and doing this audit and all this other stuff. Pay no attention to them. And we're not going to cover it either, is the way that the media is going about that whole thing. Then you have as well the shaming of individuals who have chosen not to take the COVID-19 vaccine. The shaming of individuals for exercising their religious rights to not do so. Speaking of which, any of you guys who are who are listening to this broadcast, any of you who are watching it live or on demand, if you need a letter sent to your employer stating that it is that you are exempt because of religious reasons for the vaccine, let me know. I've been sending out a bunch of these the past couple of weeks. Okay, I don't mind doing it. Get a hold of me. I will get your address and I will get this sent to you. The only thing I will say is that if you need one, don't open the letter, okay? Because it needs to be sealed and realize, the employer needs to realize that you haven't gone and, took something out and put something back in, or even have written it yourself, okay? I even put my contact information in there if they need to talk to me directly about why it is that Jewish individuals, such as myself included, why this the ingredients that are within this vaccine are not kosher for a person who is halakhically Jewish. Okay, and the thing about it though is that there's many laws in place, which I cite in those letters, showing that it is that they cannot go and force a person who is Jewish to go and do these things. Okay, so any of you guys that needs a letter sent, to I will send it to you. Give it to your employer, keep it sealed and all that stuff. Get a hold of me. I will make a point to send out a bunch more of those on Monday. I'm here to advocate for you guys. It's a form of tzedakah. Okay? The media is telling us that in terms of this vaccine, that it is the safest that has ever been. But yet the death rates of this vaccine have been higher than any other in history. Now, I'm not an anti-vax guy. Not in any way, shape, or form. I've gotten many vaccines when I was a child. I got some when I went off to college. I had no adverse effects from any of those. So I'm not one of these people that says that, a person, shouldn't protect themselves from polio or whatever else is out there. But, when you have something that has a higher death rate because of the vaccine than the actual virus itself, it gives me a little pause, to be perfectly honest. Now, I got to be honest with you, there have been reports as well from many people in the hospitals, okay? People working in the hospitals are not to be classifying those who are vaccinated that have the Delta variant. By the way, one hospital was shown that 100% of the individuals within that hospital that were vaccinated had the Delta variant. 0% who were unvaccinated, just so you know, by the way. And I'm sure that's probably the case with all the hospitals. I can't say for sure, but I can say based upon the evidence of, 170 submissions into this hospital of individuals that were vaccinated, all of which had the Delta variant, I'm saying to myself that the Delta variant is given through the vaccine. And I'm not saying that there's any sort of evil thing going on there. So what I'm saying is that you have something here that's been rushed through. Okay, that there are issues with it. There are massive issues with it. And yet, the media don't want to talk about it. And if you talk about it, social media is going to shut you up. They are going to shut you up. Just like they might take down this video as well. Thankfully, Apple Podcasts and Vimeo treat us very well. So does Roku, by the way. So, if you're watching live and you need to share this thing around, no, if it ever goes down, it's not because of me. Okay? Go and get it from Apple Podcasts and go and get it from Vimeo. Okay? Because it will still be there in those places. Now, this is not just stuff that is recent. There has been a push by small groups of individuals for a very long time to try and erode away of the Judeo-Christian aspects of our society and of our community. They've been slowly chipping away at it for a very long time. You guys remember in the early 2000s when they were trying to get the 10 Commandments, and very successful in many states, of getting the 10 Commandments taken out of the courthouses. You remember before that getting prayer taken out of school. You remember last year that if a person was walking down the street of New York and they were carrying with them a Chumash, they were arrested for carrying a Chumash. Because the fact that they felt that if you were carrying a Chumash, then chances are, or a Siddur or anything of a religious Jewish text, that you were going to a gathering. They are telling us that we cannot fulfill one of the mitzvahs that is within Leviticus 23, which is you shall have a holy convocation. You shall have a holy convocation. Now, we do have the instance of Pikuah Nefesh, to be able to save a life. The thing that I would say is that for an individual who feels that they might be at risk, for an individual who may be, 65 or older, maybe don't go to the shul. But make sure to stay in contact with individuals at the shul or the church or whatever it is type of assembly that it is that you go to. Stay in contact with them. Because otherwise, what is going to happen? You're going to be influenced by the media. You're going to be influenced by the things of the world that are put out. Because just like over here at the College Street Recreation Center, they are trying to trick people into taking a vaccine that they are hesitant about. They're sending out people to go and knock on doors, and they are trying to put the spread of this Delta variant upon you people, upon those of you who have had hesitancy about this thing. But yet, one hospital that was able to put out their statistics said 100% of individuals with the Delta variant were vaccinated. And it was 90% of the individuals in the hospital, by the way. So I don't want to hear this garbage from Fauci, who looked like he was a reject from The Sopranos, go and tell me that this thing is being spread by the unvaccinated. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night, sir. Whenever it is that we, and it's interesting because in today's theological world, people don't want to look at primary and secondary citation. You're going to get some crazy ideas of, various scriptures and all that stuff. They're just completely out there, just like the flat earth people, people who think that Enoch is canonical, and all that stuff. You've seen a lot of that in the Hebrew roots movement, sacred name theology, and all that stuff. All the craziness that comes from over there. You've seen all that craziness. Now, the thing is that where do those things come from? It's by claiming something as scholarship that doesn't have primary or secondary citation, and not using primary and secondary sources. This is where you get the Paleo Hebrew whack jobs and all that stuff. Now, considering that they don't practice that in the theological, which is more important than the things in the physical today, which is, the things that I could touch and see and all that stuff. For our sights must be set upon that of the Olam Haba, of the world to come, the Malchut HaShamayim, the kingdom of heaven. That's where our sights are. And that is how it is that we sanctify ourselves. But also we do it the right way. And how it says in Pirkei Avos, be not like servants who serve their master for the sake of receiving a reward. Rather, be like servants who serve their master not for the sake of receiving a reward. And may the awe of heaven be upon you. That's the approach we take. Why do I bring this up? Because when we are in our religious realm, in our theological lives, there's a certain way in which we operate. Okay? I always talk about primary, secondary citation. That's never going to lead you astray. Now, the same thing is true with the medical. The same thing is true with the medical. Peer-reviewed studies. Okay? Not the talking head on TV. Okay? Talking head of the TV is going to put on whoever it is that agrees with him or her. That's it. Take, for instance, Dr. Fauci. Primary example of this. Has not seen a patient since 1978. Since before I was born, he has not seen a patient. So for him to treat all of America as though we are his patient, that should cause us to kind of think. And then if you go through his history, it's also very interesting. When we look at primary and secondary citation, and I look at, just like if you like a certain musician or you like a certain theologian, you're going to look at their entire body of work, right? How come it is we don't do that with Dr. Fauci? Don't you think we should? Because if we were good scholars on anything, and I would say it'd probably be good in terms of, our medical stuff, to be good scholars on what it is that we're doing to ourselves. When I became a type 1 diabetic, they just didn't give me the vials of insulin to say, okay, go and have fun. Here's your blood sugar monitor. Go and have fun. No, I had to be educated on these things. Took years, for them to, it took several weeks for them to say, okay, well, this is the doses that he should be taking. Starting out, these are the doses. Here's how often you should check your blood sugar. If it's low, you should do this. If it's high, you should do this, and all this stuff. This wasn't stuff that they just came up with off the top of their head, unlike Dr. Fauci. And it took a lot of years of history, research, all of these things, and testing. Took a very long time. So when it comes to a doctor, if you have a doctor that has pushed certain drugs that have had devastating effects, who also hasn't seen a patient since 1978, and also who gave funding to the place that he said this virus didn't come from, and then he says that we're going to adopt a model of what it is, how we're going to combat this thing, from a 14-year-old girl who's never been to medical school, who's just an average middle school student. Many of you guys didn't know that, did you? With somebody with that kind of track record, I would say to myself, yeah, don't think I'm going to listen to that guy. there is more failure in what it is that this man has done than there has been successes. None of his models that he has put out, oh, if we do this and this and this, and we go and do that by this time, this is what's going to happen. None of those models happen. None of them. And I think that his advocacy of this of this vaccine is also something to say, okay, this is what he said he's going to do, or this is what he said is going to happen. If 70% of the population go and get it, well, 70% of it happened. And why is it that we're on a rise? Oh, because of this new Delta variant. Well, then we got to go to the primary and secondary sources, as well as the peer-reviewed medical journals. Peer-reviewed medical journals put out by Harvard and Yale and Johns Hopkins. We're not going to pay attention to those, because that is not what the talking heads on TV are telling us. We are living in this time right now, talked about in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. We are living in it now. We are living in a time, the Bible goes and gives specific instructions here. It says that God is going to bless those who bless the Jewish people. He's going to curse those who curse them. Now, let me tell you what happened in Morganton, North Carolina here this week. Okay? It's very interesting because this is what caused me to do this episode. I believe it was Tuesday. It might have been Monday. It was either Monday or Tuesday. Me and Amy were at work, and Jess was there as well. The entire building started to shake. Wondering what happened. Well, coming to find out, there was an earthquake about 5 miles away from us. It was close to a 3. And, trying to figure out what it is that happened. At the same time, there was an explosion over at the rock quarry. Immediately after that happens, tropical storm goes and hits North Carolina. Same day. Okay? Same day. I go and I lose power over here. We had an earthquake. Oh, and various tornadoes on the same day. All of this happened. Up in Black Mountain, over at Amy's part of the woods, there was flooding of the Swananoa River. So she goes and packs up the dogs, sends them over to Jess's, and then she goes and stays at a hotel, and behind the hotel even was flooded. And we had flooding over here in downtown Morganton as well. This all happened in one day. One day. All of this had happened. Now, it's interesting because that very same morning, the school board of Burke County met and decided to put back into play the mask mandate. Various other counties in North Carolina, the day that this tropical storm hit North Carolina and displaced and devastated a lot of people, those same days, that morning, many other school boards went and put into effect mask mandates. The thing is that when I look at that and I see these things happening, I say to myself all the time, everything comes from Hashem. Hashem is in control of all the things in the natural. He's in control of all of these things. And so, sometimes Hashem has to send a response to us because of the decisions that we make. Proverbs tells us that God will go and scold his children like a father would do the same for a son. Why is it that God would have to do that? because of the fact that there's things within us that need to be changed. There are things within us that are impure, that are unholy. And this time of the year right now, the time between that of Tish B'Av and Yom Kippur, this is what we should be focusing in on. I talked about this greatly in the Torah portions Tazri and Metzor. Oh, my apologies. Last year, I talked about this during my Tish B'Av teaching last year. I talked about it in my Rosh Hashanah teaching last year. I talked about it in the Yom Kippur teaching last year. Why? Because we were knee deep in this pandemic during that time. And I said, this is from Hashem. Why is this from Hashem? Because of the fact that we are given time to be, away from work, away from, the daily things. And Hashem saying, I want you to look at me. I want you to look at my word. I want you to change, to become more holy. I am putting my people in timeout because in the Parshas Tazri and Metzora, whenever it is that a person goes and commits Lashon Hara, they get Negesorot and Metzora. They get these spiritual afflictions that turn into physical afflictions on their skin. And so God goes and puts them into timeout. Why? It's kind of like your children. Let me go over there and think about what it is that you've done. This is what God had done at the start of this whole thing last year. But instead of becoming more holy as a nation, we have gone even more into the toilet. We have become more vile. We have become more disgusting. We have gone and attacked the people of God. And there is this vile hatred towards people like myself and people like my fiance. There is this vile hatred against the children of Hashem. And it's all the way down to because they wear a kippah, because they wear a talit katan, because it is that they don't swear, because it is that they don't drink, because of the fact that, they don't take the vaccine, because of the fact that they put God above all else. You want to know something? This is the same thing that happened in the 1940s in Germany. This is the exact same thing. Exact same thing. And yet, we look at the world around us today and we say, I'm just one voice. Let me tell you something. I've been doing this radio program for 18 years almost 18 years now. We get 150,000 people who listen on their podcast service every single week. We've been able to make a difference for people on this program. We've been able to help guide people theologically. We've been able to help them and counsel them and help them to change their lives and to live for Hashem. We've been able to help people to do that. All the editing of this, the streaming, the setup, the notes and all that stuff before it is that I come on the air is not done by a team. It's done by me. With the help of God, with God's help, to be able to have the energy to do this every week, to be able to have the time to talk to you guys every week and to discuss these things. It is all from Hashem. Let me tell you something. You can do great things. You can do great things for the Olam Haba. But it is dependent upon you to not see yourself as one person. Yeshua said, and I'll show you where he says this, by the way. because he alludes to the fact that you are not just one person. You are 10. How is that? How the heck am I 10? What verse is that? You remember the individual that broke away from the minyan? And Yeshua said that he is perfectly permissible to go and pray with himself as opposed to with the minyan. He wasn't teaching against Judaism. He wasn't teaching against Hasidus within this. Because it all comes down to the essence of the minyan. What is the essence of the minyan? What is the minyan in terms of the Kabbalistic nature found within that of the Zohar? And found within those texts, what is it actually talking about? Is it actually talking about 10 individual people? The 10 individual people is to remind us of this one thing. It's to remind us of the 10 points on the Sephiros, the 10 attributes, the 10 worlds that are a part of the Sephiros. Now, it's interesting because the Sephiros is set up like that of a body of a person. Do you think that Keter, the crown, is on the head for just no reason? You think the Malchut is at the feet, which the book of Psalms talks about the footstool of heaven being at the feet of the Mashiach? Do you think that that's just coincidence? In Judaism, nothing's a coincidence. Nothing is coincidence. You have the attribute and have more within you than you realize. Standing up against tyranny, speaking out the will of Hashem, and going and talking to people about Hashem. You are not just one person. You have the Tzaddikim of the Olam Haba with you. The Tzaddikim are on your side. Mashiach, Yeshua HaNotzri, is on your side in these instances. Guys, I need to stop being so afraid. Need to stop being so afraid. When we look at a holiday that is coming up in a couple of months, we have Hanukkah. Very small group of Jews. We're the only ones to stand up and say, enough, enough, get out of our temple. You are not going to dictate your ways to us. This year, we shouldn't have just been reading the book of the Maccabees just on Hanukkah. We probably should have been reading that every month to understand that message. And that message is tied to the place that we're in right now, because right now there are many of you who are watching or many of you who are listening, and it's your time. It is your time to stand up, to take away the old guard. You are the new guard. You are the new guard today. You are going to be the one that changes the world. You are going to be the one, with the help of Mashiach, to spread the truth of Hashem. You stop sitting on your butt. Stop standing all day on your click, 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 click. Get away from it. Set your eyes upon that of the Malchut HaShamayim, the kingdom of heaven. It is your time. I want to thank all of you for joining me here today. I want to wish all of you shalom bracha, peace and a blessing. Shalom. The Hebrew and Aramaic Learning Institute allows you to learn the Semitic languages at your own pace and on your own time. At the Hebrew and Aramaic Learning Institute, there are over 200 video lessons taking you through the Hebrew and Aramaic languages. There are videos on each letter and also each nakud, as well as exercise sheets and over 150 PDF files you can download. Currently, in 2021, 6 of our former students are now working as translators in the land of Israel. Learn Hebrew, learn Aramaic, and learn it right by visiting HebrewandAramaic.com. Again, that's HebrewandAramaic.com.